Good evening, and welcome back to another community watch party for the Pantheon newsletter stream. And this stream in particular, I'm wearing my Pantheon shirt, my Pantheon merch here tonight, if you couldn't already tell, because this very well may be the stream that we have been waiting for a long time. Multiple reasons. Let's break down real quick what's on the docket for this evening. First of all, some updates to Black Rose Keep, which is unexpected but cool. We've seen a lot of Black Rose Keep, and they had alluded that they've made some changes to it, so curious to see what those are. Next, the first, I think this is like the first reveal, it is the first reveal of the new website that they have been working on for God knows how long. And then on top of that, details of pre-alpha 5, what to expect. I don't know if that's going to include a date. It might, but still, just talking about pre-alpha 5, whatever it's going to look like, what's going to be included in it, that is all very welcome news. Oddly enough, I feel like I'm more excited about the newsletter out of all of those things, because I have kind of a weird relationship. Did I say newsletter? I said website. I have a weird relationship with their website because I have spent more time on their website than the average Pantheon fan has. And it's kind of like it's kind of nostalgic in a way, which sounds weird to say because, you know, I feel nostalgic about a website of a game that isn't even released yet. But I mean, I've spent the majority of the past 4 years on that website, and though at the same time I very much think that it is time to move on from that website. It's very outdated, very clunky, and I know the devs have known this for a while, but for various reasons it just kept getting pushed back, and which is like, I get, okay, yeah, development on the game itself is more important, but there comes a time where the website needed to get updated. It was getting kind of embarrassing, like, you know, if I wanted to maybe met somebody that was newly interested in the game, want to direct them to the website, it's like, but then there's like this quirk and it's got that quirk. The game, I feel like, has outgrown the website, and so I think, you know, now is finally the time is upon us where we can actually have a website that is befitting of the game. And so, as somebody who frequents the website, I'm pretty excited to see what that looks like. Obviously, yeah, pre-alpha 5. I know, I totally understand. I'm probably in the minority there. A lot of people are really excited just about pre-alpha 5. Even if you're not going to be a tester in pre-alpha 5, you should be excited about pre-alpha 5 because it's, you know, measured progress. It is one step closer to alpha or beta or launch or wherever you're going to join the picture. The fact that testers are going to be able to come in the game and experience it firsthand is a very, very good thing for everybody involved. So it's awesome that we're going to be getting that tonight as well. But yeah, that website, man, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what it entails. I Game Too Much says, does this mean the new website will be up, or they are just showing it? I think they're just previewing it. Basically, I don't think it's going to be live right now, but If they're going to be showing it, then to me that suggests that it going live is in the foreseeable future. I think it makes a lot of sense for that to happen around the same time as pre-alpha 5. Because there's a lot of publicity riding on PA5, and so if there's going to be a lot of new eyes on the game, they want to have like a professional, polished place to direct people. So I think it makes sense. Donler says dated. You can say it, Baz. It's dated. Yeah, it is dated. It is very dated. And with that, they just went live. So I'm going to shut up and we will see with our own eyes, and then we'll discuss it later. I'm going to switch over here in a second. There it is. You hear that music? It's time, people.
And welcome everyone to the June 25th, 2020 development update date stream for Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. I am producer Ben McHale-Dean. With me as always is David Millie Schaller, senior content creator. Say hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
And coming from a remote location today is Chris Joppa Perkins, our creative director.
Hey everybody, let's get rolling.
Let's get rolling. Let's do this.
Aren't
so
we
thanks
all?
For coming, everybody.
Whoops, sorry about that.
We have a pretty good show for you today. I know that there's some stuff that you're pretty excited to hear about and some stuff that we're pretty excited to share. One of the topics that we brought up last time, so we sort of hinted at, was an upcoming new website. Now, the website is well underway, and in fact, I am going to show you a little bit of a teaser for it.
Exciting.
Exciting.
Let's jump right in.
So here we have, now keep in mind before we go through this, the content is not complete, so what you're seeing right now is just kind of a base template. But we have the home page here. You'll see there's a pledge button right up the top. You have interactive menus. Again, those aren't complete. We scroll down. We see the news section, and that's all going to be updated live. This again is all placeholder content for now, but you'll have a convenient place where you can go in, check the latest news, read more articles.
Already a million times better.
More about that. And then if we scroll down a little bit more, we have a little synopsis of, scroll down here, a little synopsis of Pantheon, and then our screenshot section, say that 5 times fast. You click on the screens and you get the higher resolution. Pretty standard stuff, but pretty cool. And then you can right click to download them, all that cool stuff. Subscribe button. And then the menus, we'll take a look at the FAQ first of all. Now, the new and updated FAQ is kind of done in a knowledge base format, so it's completely searchable. It's categorized.
This is what I wanted to see.
You can search for whatever question is ailing you, and you can go through the different categories and just kind of read about Pantheon. So we'll go into the race pages now. Yes, and again, I see somebody saying class pages. They're coming. It's not. We haven't coded them in yet. We do have the race pages though, and we'll take a quick look at the dwarves here, and you'll see a nice clean layout. This is all responsive design as well too, so no matter what size of browser you're looking at, you'll be able to read it easily.
Dwarves
so
FAQ, it's like
your race.
It's like the stream was made for me.
All that cool stuff. So Dave was who's with us right now, was responsible for a lot of the actual look and feel of the website. Dave, what were you kind of going for in terms of the motif and style?
I think I was just trying to get, we've kind of been branding the last year and a half, and I was trying to bring that and incorporate that into the website, just a clean, modern look. Obviously we're a classically, themed, a classically sort of influenced MMO, but I think we're trying to, sort of head into the future a little bit, and I think
Right.
we wanted the website to represent that. So just kind of clean, modern, very easy to navigate. By the way, I don't think Ronick looking for his corpse is news, but okay. I think that's like old news. But yeah, I think it's just, it's all about the branding, and website is sort of the equivalent of a movie trailer. If you're not excited, that's pretty much the front lines. That somebody hears about the game, they're going to go to the website first. And I think that this is the equivalent of our trailer, and it's got to look good and again, just be easy to navigate and enticing. And I think that's what we were going for.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with that design and sort of the theme, the style of Pantheon. Now the what was I going to say? Slipped out of my mind. But this is just the first phase of the website. So you'll see all of the front pages. You'll see all of the information that you're used to seeing. Like I said, you have that knowledge base there too. All the class info, race info. We'll have some lore info in there as well. Different pledge packages and stuff. So that's phase 1. Phase 2 is coming later. That will be new forums and a new storefront. But for right now, we're kicking out phase 1. That should be coming within pretty soon. In a couple of weeks, I think. So
very soon.
Oh, interesting.
Very soon. So moving on then, the thing that I believe most of you are gathered here to hear about is a little thing called Pre-Alpha 5. So what to expect for Pre-Alpha 5? What is Pre-Alpha 5? Well, I can tell you what to expect from it. So Pre-Alpha 5 begins with kind of what we're calling a Pre-Alpha shakeout. Now what that is just it's turning the lights back on. It's kind of shaking out the dust, making sure that everything's running and operating correctly. Just general stuff like being able to log in, making sure that there are no fires and that sort of thing. We do a lot of automated testing, but there's no equivalent of having live people come in. And besides, you guys have waited long enough, I think, to be able to get back into the game. So that's going to take place over a course of a weekend. So there are going to be 6 play sessions, 3 on each day. And for our VIP pledgers who are partaking of PA5, you should be able to get into 2 of those sessions on that weekend. Now that's the shakeout. That's kind of the kickoff. That's where all things start. During that time, you'll be receiving instructions too on the kinds of things that we need feedback on. We know you're going to want to get in there and play and check out everything. But for this first shakeout, really, we're going to need some specific types of feedback. So again, if you are a pre-alpha pledger, make sure that you go to the pre-alpha forums once we get things rolling and check out what we're looking for, the kind of feedback that we're looking for. So Zoe may ask you to roll a shaman and cast 3 spells, or Joppa may ask you to climb a rock, or Ronick may ask you to help find his corpse, that sort of thing, But that kind of data will give our team the kind of information that they need to optimize the realms and fix bugs, increase performance, that sort of thing. Basically shaking out the dust. It's now over the next few weeks, over the next coming weeks, you can expect to receive an email from us outlining or giving you your selection of sessions that you want to join in. We'll do our best to accommodate. So expect that within a few weeks. What else? Oh yeah, so what you can do now is make sure that your email addresses are all up to date. And we will be making an announcement when we send that out, just to make sure that you don't miss it by chance. And of course, CS is at the ready for any problems that might arise if you haven't received the email once we send it, that sort of thing. Yeah, so after the shakeout, some weeks after the shakeout, then we'll open things up a little bit more, so you'll be able to do the actual some more organic testing and play a bit more of the world, that sort of thing. But for now, we've got to do the shakeout. So that's pretty much what you can expect for PA5, at least the PA5 shakeout. I'm just scanning to see if you guys have any questions. Feel free to toss them up in chat. Alpha, Quasio, the alpha is going to operate a little bit different than pre-alpha. There may still be sessions, but I don't want to say too much about it because it's still a ways out. So, but at some point we will open things up so that you guys can play for longer than just a session here and there. But pre-alpha is definitely sessions, yes.
None of that was super surprising to me.
I'll just give this a second or two, see if I have any more questions before we move on.
But so it sounds like if they
Grumpy TV is asking how long is it ways out. Alpha, I can't give you a date on that. I wouldn't even want to attempt that because I know you guys. You'll lock me into it and then.
Well, and PA5 is going to be pretty critical as well. Just the kind of data we're able to gather in PA5 is going to set the stage for what that roadmap looks like.
Yeah.
To alpha.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're kind of targeting
so
late July, early August for PA5, based on the sounds of things.
Back to it. For now, though, we do have a little bit of a video reel to show. Now, pre-alpha 5, again, expect gray boxing, expect bugs. We're going to talk a little bit about gray boxing, why that's such an important part of development. A lot of the world in PA5 is gray boxed, so I just want to make sure that you understand that. And Joppa now is going to kind of go through the reasoning behind that. But out in the background, I'm going to show you a little bit of gray boxing in the new. Actually, Joppa, do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to show a little bit of footage from the new Black Rose Keep zone. So it's funny because just a couple days ago, I think in one of our Discord channels, BazgrimTV linked some videos from PAX East 2018. So I was going down memory lane a little bit, and that's when we first announced Black Rose Keep.
I did,
and kind of themed that trip around that dungeon, that keep, and so it's pretty exciting to see the changes and the things that have developed internally since that time. Just with the world as a whole, and I'm going to say a little bit about that as we kind of get further into the reel here.
Maybe somebody else linked my videos because I don't remember.
One of the biggest points of feedback that we got during pre-alpha 1, 2, 3, and 4 was that while the world, the Terminus was beautiful, it was compelling, there was a sense of lacking in scale, and just the scale and the size of the game world. And we took that consideration very seriously, and we're kind of feeling it ourselves. And much of what we've been working on during Project Fairtale has to do with the world layout, the world size, scope. And while there are several new areas of the game world that have been developed and are online, we've also been able to spend some time revisiting some of these earlier areas as well to make sure that they're truly standing up to the standard of world scale that we want and that we know that the community is hungry for as well. Let's go ahead and roll it, and then I'll talk about it. We're going to take a look here at Black Rose Keep. You have that rolling yet, Ben?
It's rolling.
Sweet. So,
guys, let me know if the audio is too loud too. I have some audio in the background, but
it's too quiet.
So the best way to coin what we're going for with the scale and flow of Pantheon's game world and the travel within it is that it all serves to create a sense of arrival. That's another way to think about kind of what we were hearing with in some of the feedback earlier on, is that if the world is too small, if the areas within the world are too small, if there's not enough distance to travel between point A and point B, that sense of arrival is going to be missing. That sense of seeing things off in the distance, or that sense of feeling like I've traveled a long way to get here, and so actually getting here feels really important. So that was one of the reasons that pushed us to pick up Black Rose Keep and move it to a different location. It was before in Avendir's Pass, and while there were, obviously lore-related reasons and it was intentionally placed where it was, it gave us an opportunity with what I was talking about before to really rethink, like, okay, where do we really feel like Black Rose Keep could sit in the world, to where it's not just something that you're seeing from across, maybe the first or the second zone that you come to, but it actually involves quite a bit of traversal, and even some fairly difficult traversal to get there. So what we've done is we've taken a couple of key shots. We're also being very intentional and very careful about what we show, because as we've talked about many times before, there's being in open development, there's always a balance between showing meaningful progress, making sure that we're being consistent and transparent about the progress that the game is making, but also wanting to always keep hold enough back to where there's not fatigue when the game launches, where areas have just been overexposed. So let me say a few quick things about the keep itself and this area itself. The first thing you're going to notice is that while we've shown the keep before in the past, there's plenty in these video clips to let you know that the keep itself has undergone quite a bit of change in the form of expanding it, breaking it up into multiple layers, and then even incorporating what to me is some incredibly impactful landscape and world composition we're seeing here, with the differences in the elevation, the differences in just the topography and the geometry of this play area. Obviously not just pretty to look at and interesting to look at, but when you consider the climbing system and the full scale climbing that we have, it's just another example of how our gameplay spaces are fully embracing not only the horizontal aspect, but the vertical aspect very much so. It should always be the case that there would be multiple ways for you, depending on your level range, depending on your climbing skill, depending on multiple different factors, to approach and access different areas. So we're super excited about Black Rose Keep and what it's become, the kind of identity that it now has. We feel like nestled in its new and permanent location. The other thing you're going to notice too is that it's not just the keep itself, but there's an entire zone really dedicated to this, and not just in support of Black Rose Keep, but Black Rose Keep sits within a larger zone that has many other points of content in it as well. And it's going to be, for our pre-alpha testers, a very consistent theme that they're going to be seeing throughout all the different gameplay areas, is that you're going to be enjoying a much larger scale and context of the different areas that make up Terminus now, that we've been able to really revisit and kind of take what we've learned, the feedback we've gotten, and then start imbuing that into the scale and the scope and the layout of our zones. We've also got here it's been a while since we've shown some nighttime, and while this still being in a gray box state, we're not spending a ton of time right now dialing in, every little touch and detail on, things like lighting and atmospherics and things like that. These are really, again, just meant enough to be representative. And gray box is always really a spectrum. You can have a gray box that's completely primitive, circles and spheres and squares and rectangles, or you can have gray box like what you see here, which is what we would call presentation gray box, which is fully representative of shape and contour and space that the actual geometry takes up in the game world. And the reason for that is not only because it looks a lot prettier, which it certainly does, but it also is what allows gray box to serve its ultimate purpose, which it's going to let us build these places out as we've done. And because it's essentially one-to-one geometry, just without final textures and kind of that finishing pass, it's going to allow us to place NPCs and all of our game systems in a legitimate way. With Greybox, it's the visuals that are representative, it's the visuals that are footprinted, but the gameplay is able to be layered in legitimate and full form ways around it. So. But if you're like us, it's amazing how when you factor in composition, when you factor in the scale, when you factor in the elevation, and then the context of the gameplay, the setting, the lore, it is a striking environment. And whether zones are in a more of a final art form, or as this one in more of a gray box form, it's amazing how little ultimately it detracts from the sense of experience and the impact that the zone has, even visually. And then how much more, as we get to the point where we're able to start finalizing the art in some of these areas, it will only be that much, more of a step forward. So we were excited to show this, really excited to use this as an opportunity to talk about that sense of arrival and to really come into PA5. It's one of the things it's one of the main data points we're looking for, is now that more of the world, more of this, first continent of King's Reach is coming together in its entirety in terms of all the different zones, their connectivity, being able to run, continuously from, Thronefast to Fairthale, for example, and make that full run on foot. We're going to start paying very close attention now in pre-alpha 5 to player population, player movement, player push, migration, bottlenecks, congregation points. Where are players naturally drawn to? Where are the community points naturally happening? And that's something that we want the pre-alpha testers to come in with a really good kind of focus on, is what does the scale and feel and flow of Terminus feel like now compared to when it was last experienced? And I think the impact's going to be felt, and I think it's going to be amazing. So we're really excited about it, and I'll leave it at that.
And I think it's important to just know that, from the get-go, we've always said the game, it doesn't matter how pretty it looks, it's how it plays. And I think what you're starting to see, or what I'm seeing being in-game, is the world coming to life, and that, it feels not, just like a visually pretty thing, but the game is a game, and it's fun, and you want to be there, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to just for if anybody's having a hard time visualizing the change from the gray box to actual end product, I'm just going to show you the teaser from November rather, where gray boxing eventually ends up. So you'll remember this trailer. This was for Fairthale, and it was built in much the same way, with gray boxing and whatnot. So this is eventually what we can look towards as a shipping product. But for now, gray boxing just allows us so much more opportunity to expand and to tweak and to get things knocked out a lot faster than trying to put polish on it before it's complete. So
I have to give it just an absolutely massive shout out to our senior 3D artist, senior environment artist. The Jimmy Lane is just absolutely phenomenal, and I'm glad you showed that trailer, because it's going to give viewers a real perspective in someone like Jimmy, the vast spectrum of his talents, his ability, both in a gray box. When you can make a gray box setting and environment come as fully to life as Black Rose Keep, that's some real amazing stuff right there. But then the Oldwood shot that Ben just showed there, that's where all this leads. I mean, that's what final art looks like. And one of the main reasons we wanted to go to that distance in Oldwood was really to set that mark, draw that line, and say, this is, for anything you see in gray box, that really is just a snapshot of an in progress point, but the finish line is beautiful. But it's also an opportunity, not just with Jimmy, but to call out Tim Wathen, one of our game designers, with thinking through the layout of the Black Rose Keep zone. Justin Gerhardt, J.N. Gerhardt, obviously our lead writer. Jared Pullen. I mean, I could go down the whole list. It's dangerous when you do that, because you don't want to leave anybody out, because there's no one to leave out. But I just have to give such kudos to the development team and all the different aspects that the zone represents, because it's just amazing. Cannot wait to get our testers in there.
And while we're at it, and again, it's tough. You don't want to leave anybody out, but I do have to send a shout out to the programmers as well, who've been working so hard on this past milestone as well. Some internal magic has really happened, and over the past few months especially, it's crazy to see the steps forward that we've made from both the front end point of view, but also on the back end. It's night and day. So thanks to all of those guys, the QA team as well, working in there trying to keep up as best as they can. So thanks to all of you guys too.
Man, it just compliment Congo though. Oof, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, but I guess I'll go with it. Sure, why not? You guys want to take some questions?
Yeah, we've got a few minutes.
We've kind of answered this, but it might be, given the fact that we just showed this video, it might be worth reiterating. D4RK Mask wants to know, how are you guys planning on approaching climbing in its ability to skip groups of mobs you intend players to face?
Yeah, this came up. I remember when this question came up. Oh, it came up in the last Dev Roundtable, and the answer is simple. If climbing exists, and if you are able to develop your climbing skill to the point where you can circumvent a group of mobs, then the game is designed for that to be okay. There's a difference between leveraging your skills and abilities to exert player agency over an experience versus tampering with or exploiting, certain things to gain an unintended broken or exploitative result. And so and I'm not going to get into the difference between those two things for now, except to say climbing exists to be fun and to be adventurous and to give players a sense of being able to have a completely new sphere of gameplay to manipulate to create the kind of outcomes they want to create. That's one of the most exciting things about the climbing system, is the kind of emergent gameplay and the creative and the type of ingenuity that we expect to see within the constraints of the system. And we've talked about that before. There's going to be increased vulnerability to you when you're on a climbing surface. You're going to be managing resources like endurance based on your climbing skill and equipment to dictate how high you can climb, how fast you can climb, how difficult it is to knock you off. So there's constraints within the climbing system, but if you're working within those restraints and using the system to do certain things like that, that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Sorry, Ronik. I actually want to address a question that Sotetsu brought up as well. We've answered this in the past too, but I think it's important to reiterate, asking about, can we even give a ballpark of a release date? I'm going to kind of broaden that question to any date, particularly like further out dates like alpha or beta or release. One of the biggest reasons why we don't do that is because of the way that we're funded. So as you know, Pantheon is largely crowdfunded. So that sort of sets the pace at which we're able to develop. Now, as we get more funding, if crowdfunding peaks, that can have an effect on it. Or if we get a larger investor, that can certainly speed things up. So it's very difficult to say that it'll be at such and such a date without knowing the cadence of that funding. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
So I'm just going to ask a few here. SN Pantheon wants to know, will Black Rose Keep be a perma-night zone?
No, it is not a perma-night zone. It's been shown at nighttime in the past and currently, because it's one of the zones we're using to dial in our nighttime settings. But overland zones in Pantheon will have a true day-night cycle to them. So you will see all of them in daytime and nighttime and in those transitionary times as well.
Cool. Toadman Bear wants to know that we mentioned we moved Black Rose Keep. He wants to know where. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but he wants to know if there's new lore to support the new location.
Absolutely.
The
lore supporting Black Rose Keep has not changed, in the sense that the location that we had it previously and the location we have it now, everything still stands. There was no breaking of the lore or even a need to revise the lore. It's just that within those parameters, we were able to find a place that was just as fitting, but also allowed for more distance. And even, I would say, if anything, is even more in line with the lore than it was in terms of just the I guess believability of a keep and a force like Black Rose Keep and like the Black Rose and Amani Karos being just tucked a little bit too close to Throne Fast before now enjoying much more of a buffer there. That makes a lot more sense, especially when you weave it into the kind of topography and where Black Rose Keep is settled now. It only really resonates even more with the context and the story of Black Rose Keep. So it's in a really good spot, but no, I'm not going to tell you where it is. You'll have to find that on your own.
I think.
Sorry, I'm just going to take one from Vandrad real quick, asking about for anybody involved in pre-alpha pledge, if they can sign up for all the sessions on the Shakeout weekend. The answer is no, and the reason being is because we have to balance the realms. If we have to, it's partially that, but we also have to balance our own sanity. So we can only track so many people at a given time realistically without it just becoming useless information to us. So yeah, it's going to be limited to 2 sessions per person.
I was just going to follow up with talking about the Black Rose Keep move, and I don't think this is too much of a spoiler, and I won't say too much, but I mean, CP, they can expect that won't be the only change since the last time they were in game, yeah?
No, that is not.
So Pantheon Plus wants to know, Ben, are there going to be asset packs, pictures, art, etc., for content creators on the website?
In fact, Dave's doing that right now. Look at that face. No, a fan site kit is absolutely something that we're going to be working on. I don't think it's going to be ready for site launch, but I am serious. Dave is actually going to be putting it together.
Just not right now.
Not right now. But yeah, we'll have logos and stuff. Along with it is going to be stuff like style guides, like proper use of the logo, that sort of thing. But yeah, we'll have that ready for you soon.
Let's see what else we got here. I'm actually curious about this, CP. You're probably not ready to answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do we have any idea when we're going to see the racial actives? I'm just going to put you on the spot and ask you all the questions you don't want to answer.
Tomorrow. No, that does need to be answered.
About the same time as I'm getting to do those fan sites.
Yeah. Guess what?
Yeah. Yeah, it's obviously it's still very much on the list to get out to you guys, and with everything going on really since the turn of the year and all that we've been doing to get ready for PA5, it's just continued to drop down, some spots on the list perpetually. So, but it really is something that should coincide with the website. I can't say that I'm going to have those ready to roll in by the time the website launches, but my goal is to be somewhere in the vicinity of that, so that those pages, the race and the class pages, are able to be as up to date as possible as soon as possible.
That's something else that that we don't really talk too much about, but with this new website, it's allowing our content creators like David and our community managers like Kilson and Brass to be able to put stuff up as it happens and to put up their own content. Prior to that, it was a bit more complicated of a process, and the reason for that is just the way that the site was created in the early days. It just didn't allow for that kind of dynamic updating, but now we'll be able to do that. So you can expect a lot more frequent of updates. And a lot more juicier updates too. So
yeah. So once I don't think CP. I don't think you're going to have it in the next couple of weeks when we get the website. But as soon as you do, we'll be able to add it to the pages very easily.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. You have any, Ben, that you were fielding that you wanted to?
Oh no, I thought you were taking them all.
No,
I haven't seen any jump out at me that I.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we can talk about if this is the last PA or not. Yeah. I think do we have anything else? Maybe.
Do we have some patch notes?
We do have some patch notes.
Why don't we do some patch notes?
Uh-huh.
Dave, do you have like a
We
song
do.
for us this stream? Weren't you gonna?
I'm working on it.
Sing us a song, like a little patch note song.
Patch notes. Patch notes.
Okay, stop singing the patch note song.
Okay.
Hey, come on, you got to do better than that.
I'm not a bard. I got to work on that one.
That was beautiful. Let's do some patch notes.
For sure.
All right, so as usual, I'm just going to read through these, no particular order. Here we go. This is over the last month. These are not representative of all patches, obviously, the internal work that's been done. This is me just pulling out some highlights. Here we go. Zone lines now default to spawning you at your previous location, but in the new zone, meaning that hitting zone lines will feel much more organic because you will end up on the same spot on the other side. Teleport to zone has been implemented now, allowing you to enter a location marker mask to specify where you want the character to be spawned. And so this is going to govern things like, some of our world teleportation. If we have, a wizard that wants to travel from, to a specific gateway, this allows us to set those locations up now, and also allows for, especially in prep for PA5, making sure that there's a specific starting point for each of the classes uniquely. Things like the Dire Lord, for example, not starting right next to the village inn, but actually having more of a lore and class fantasy appropriate place to start, things like that. Finishing passes on Black Rose Keep zone, the gray box and the keep itself in prep for the PA5 testing coming up. We implemented our new login screen layout and art, as well as our character creation screen and the 3D and 2D art for that, and are in the process of implementing the new loading screen layout and art.
That's cool. I love that loading screen art. It looks so good.
That's right.
It's a small thing, but it's very refreshing.
Yeah, that's what I was.
The last one that we used was from JP Target, and he's a fantastic artist too. But that was 2015. So now we have the current art style. So it's cool. Looks good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's gonna feel really nice for sure. Two-handed slashing combat idol. These are some animations that made it in over the last month. The combat idol for two-handed slashing, and then the auto attacks for two-handed slashing as well. For now, this is going to cover two-handed swords, axes, and maces and hammers, though down the road we'll probably differentiate between the blunt and the slashing types for that. We have the unarmed hand-to-hand combat idol and the hand-to-hand auto attacks. These are different from the monk, who would be more, the monks. There's monk-specific hand-to-hand auto attacks and just animations in general, but then there's also the basic unarmed combat stances and auto attack animations, and then also the two-handed staff combat idol and auto attack animations. We're also in the midst of Ross Armstrong, our animator. We're doing some polish passes on the spell casting loop, the channeled spell loop, and then the omnidirectional and targeted release animations, or the firing animations for the spells. Couple of cool things on the tech art front. Our technical artist Bruno Rhyme, he was able to finish up our lava/sap shader system that is going to be used pretty widely in the Sleepless Isle of Infinite Storm encounter and environment that we've showed, and then is going to enable us to one of the scorching environments that we have planned for the near future, and be able to leverage that shader as well. And then also some major improvements and fixes to the visuals and the performance of our new fog and water surface systems. So always an eye on the aesthetic quality, but also the performance of these things. So we've managed to get some pretty significant improvements in for those over this last month. The phase 2 art of the player and the NPC chat bubbles and the underlying functionality has come in, and they're looking fantastic.
It's cool. We talked a little bit about it on last month, but it's cool how much that really adds to just the immersion of the game. I don't know if I'm using that word properly. It's probably not immersion, but just feeling a part of the world, I guess.
It's a quality thing too. I mean, there's
it's quality of life. Yeah,
just a visual quality, a visual polish that it brings, and it just the aesthetic of it just feels like it's meant for and right for the world and the art style, and it's very nice.
Yeah.
This is a big one. We've now been able to convert all current race-specific NPCs, humanoid NPCs, to use the player character models. So, for a long time, we've had a mixture of some placeholder models. As we've gotten our player character models finished and implemented, we've now been able to complete the process of transitioning all of the humanoid NPCs that are any of the player races. So all the human NPCs, all the ogre NPCs, gnome, elf, halfling NPCs, they now are all using the player character models. So that's just part of that kind of that normalizing of the NPC population to feel more native and kind of at home in Pantheon. So you're not running around as a human and then seeing other humans that are a different model. And then in addition to that, there's been a pretty deep refactor of the NPC animation architecture, which has allowed us to bring them identically in line with the player characters in terms of the animation precision and performance. And some examples of what that means is that NPCs are going to be able to have their lower body and their upper body animating independently. So just like player characters are going to be able to run and swing their weapons without sliding on the ground, NPCs also, a bear is going to be able to run and then swipe at you while they're still running and not go into a swiping animation where they slide 5-10 feet along the ground until they finish. So it's a pretty cool polish there, but also just the precision of the animations, and again, the performance that comes with some of the refactoring that was done is pretty cool. Pretty cool to see, and again, part of just bringing the quality, the polish factor of things up to our goal. We've got a check-in for NPC chat text with italics, and that when the system detects that an NPC is saying something in italics, or that is italicized, it knows that is meant to be something that the NPC is saying to themselves, or something essentially that you are overhearing. And this is a small detail, but I know a lot of people listening are going to really like this, and that typically when an NPC says something, they say it in quotes, it shows up in the chat bubble, and in the chat log it says, so-and-so says whatever. When it's italicized, it will say so-and-so mutters, and then it will read it in the italicized way. And that's a cue that you are hearing something, either that the NPC is saying to themselves, like they're talking out loud to themselves, or that you're in a state where you are overhearing something that the NPC is only going to say if they think they're alone. I think we referenced that last time.
Yeah,
so
that's really intriguing.
You can tell where we're going with that.
The implications of that are really cool.
We've had some significant blocking and zone development done and continuing to be done on Silent Plains, the massive major zone that is the connector between Fairthale and Avenger's Pass, and I'll just leave it at that.
I wonder if that's where Black Rose Keep. That's where it is. I'm calling it.
Several font types, sizes, and the resolution across all of the new user interface assets. So you've been seeing a lot of UI things coming from us. over the last several streams and months, and just continuing to kind of bring that down to its full final form in doing some of that normalizing where we make sure that the font types are what we want and all the same font size, the same font style, and the resolution of the different UI elements are all consistent. So you have a nice harmony between all the different UI elements in the game. And last would be the support for interacting with mesh objects on the client. This is a really significant one. It has a lot of implications for the perception system. The storyline mechanics video we put out not too long ago, there was some feedback on, are all of these going to be clickable or only some of them going to be clickable? And then, how difficult it is to actually hover over it, kind of that pixel hunting. That we just put that video out when we put it out in the process of that system still being developed in some ways in those underlying mechanics. That simple update line there, support for interacting with mesh objects on the client, means that now we're going to be able to key triggers and click triggers and things like that off of the actual mesh collider of the object, meaning if we have a very complicated shaped object like one of the roots in Oldwood or the bundle of mushrooms, things like that, we can apply the click trigger component to them in mass, meaning that every single one of those roots, we don't have to go in and hand place a trigger on each one. We can just go to the root itself, the object, and say, okay, put a trigger on it, and then every single root we use in the scene, as it's just duplicated and placed in different places, will all have that trigger, and it will be keyed to the actual mesh or the actual outline of the object. So anywhere you hover over the entirety of the object, it's going to receive that trigger, and you'll see the cursor change. So this is going to just make that system a lot better. It's going to feel a lot better as a player. Number one, it's not only going to be a few select versions of the prefab. If the mushrooms are interactable, then every single mushroom placed in that area is going to be interactable. If a root is supposed to be interactable, every single root is going to be interactable, and it will have a nice precision being tied to the mesh, the outline of the object itself. So lots more we could say, but those are the highlights, and we'll stop there.
Those are some mighty good highlights.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we spilled a few beans tonight. So, folks, thanks for coming. Dave, do we have any? Look, my mouse. There is my mouse pointer there. Wow, I know what's causing that too.
Yeah, thanks. It's been on me the whole time. I appreciate that. It's like finally, I'm not looking like Super Mario Brothers circa 1984, and you got
eat cursor. Eat cursor.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, I just I installed a new version of OBS, and I know what's doing that, so I'll fix that up for next time. In any case, thanks everybody for coming. Do we have any last questions before we wrap her up?
I stopped looking.
Oh.
Sorry. Thought we were done after patch notes. My bad guess.
Okay.
Should be back on video next week, so I won't be staring at anybody anymore.
We had to do a lot on camera in your absence to make up for it. Once you see the stream, you'll be like, wow, those guys knew they had these talents. All right, thanks for coming, everybody. Just as always, remember that Pantheon is a crowdfunded game. Your pledges make this happen. So we thank you all for coming to support us in this way and in that way and in any way that you do support us. And you are some awesome supporters. So thank you for that. We will have those emails out to you in the next few weeks in terms of signing up for the pre-alpha shakeout sessions. That is, if you're a pre-alpha tester, pledger. Those pledges are still available if you want to go to pantheonmmo.com, hit that pledge button, and we still have some VIP pledges available there. David, Joppa, anything to say before we head out?
Can't wait to see you guys in game.
See you in game soon. Onward and upward. Thanks all.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
Alrighty then. Well, short but sweet, but effective. And so I normally try to avoid talking over them as much as I can during the stream so that you can actually hear what they're saying. But now we can spend just a few minutes just kind of giving my thoughts. A couple people were asking me what my thoughts were about all this, and now I get to tell you. First of all, real quick, website looks like a win so far. In my mind, it looks very just clean, which is important, and much more on brand, which is also important. But that's one thing that kind of bothered me, because they released the new logo several months ago now, and it looked really cool, and they put that on their new like social media channels and stuff, but there was still kind of this like disconnect where it wasn't really a complete rebrand across the board, or refresh, or whatever you want to call it, because the website still had the old logo, like the developer roundtables, like some of the YouTube videos still had the old logo and stuff. So again, it's just very satisfying to like see it all come together, and they even like added little details that I really appreciate, such as you notice like there was that bluish glow kind of around the edges of the website and around some of the images and stuff, which we have seen that is kind of reminiscent of the pop-ups for perception pings in game. Little details like that really make it look polished, really all bring it together, and just kind of, like I said, I mean, that website looks much more representative of the current state of the game as we've seen it. So, and it's not even done yet, so but definitely gets a thumbs up for me. More interestingly, though, I didn't, like I said, at the beginning of the stream, I didn't really know what to expect with these whole Black Rose Keep updates. But there's actually quite a bit to unpack, just even in that little teaser video. Because, so as Joppa alluded to, at PAX East 2018, I was one of several fortunate people that got to be there for the world premiere of Black Rose Keep. It was in April 2018. At the time, it was the newest zone that they were bringing online for the game. You can go to my YouTube channel now and watch all those videos from back there. It was a blast. I might have to. Joppa said he was kind of like reminiscing, rewatching some of those videos. I might have to go rewatch some of those, because that was just a lot of fun. I got to sit down and actually play the game with Joppa next to him at their booth at the convention center, and we played through Black Rose Keep, and, well, a section of it. It was very brief. I want to say each person that got to demo it, I think it was only like a 15-minute session, which just flew by like that. But it was still a lot of fun. So we did that, and then after, I think it was the following August, I had the even more distinct privilege of doing a live stream right here on my Twitch channel of Black Rose Keep with a handful of other people in the community, like Sacred, VOT, all those guys. And that was a lot of fun too. And we spent probably about an hour in Black Rose Keep. I think it was the only stream so far of Pantheon that doesn't have a developer actually in it. It was just us. They kind of just like let us go and just play more organically, just like anybody would if you jump into Pantheon with your friends and just play to have a good time. There was not a particular agenda or whatever. Like, we had that one zone, and we just kind of played, and it was awesome. And again, that is also on my YouTube channel. You can go check that out if you missed that. So I feel like I can kind of speak with some sort of well, I can speak with a first-hand experience of what Black Rose Keep was like before, and then looking at what it is now. So the Black Rose Keep, when I played it, for one thing, it felt mostly complete. I won't say it's complete because there's always more polishing, but like there was no gray boxing. It was completely playable. I don't think they would have allowed us to do that community stream if it didn't look and feel good. Like we had a blast. It was actually it was right up my alley too, because I love just the castle-y dungeon kind of atmosphere. And if you played EverQuest, you're probably familiar with Unrest, and it kind of had some of those vibes to it, where it was, and that was like one of my favorite zones in EverQuest. And Black Rose Keep similarly had kind of a small footprint overall. There was a little bit of a yard around the actual structure itself. Not too significant, but it had a little bit of yard, but the focus was in the actual structure, the actual keep itself. And it was pretty dangerous. It was pretty tightly populated inside. But you just kind of like slowly made your way through it. And there wasn't a basement or anything. So it did feel a little small. The content was packed pretty densely, but area-wise, it wasn't very big. And that's okay. I don't think every zone has to be this like sprawling expanse. But it definitely was pretty small. So it was right attached to Avendir's Pass. So I get where they're coming from, their reasoning for they want it to be a little bit more of a journey to get to it. Because again, speaking of Unrest in EverQuest, just as an example, that was probably the similar level range. In EQ, you'd go to Unrest about like like late teens, early 20s, and you could fight through there into your like early to mid 30s if you wanted to. And Black Rose Keep is kind of around that same level range, but the Estate of Unrest, there was a long run to get there. It was not the sort of thing that you could just pop in and out. And it was sometimes not only a long but a somewhat dangerous journey depending on your level just to get there. But it does make it so much more satisfying and also risky when you're further away from home. It's just more exciting because if you die, you're gonna have that much longer of a run to get back to the zone. And so that kind of amplifies just the adrenaline level of the whole thing. When you're like deep in that dungeon, you are constantly thinking, I don't want to die. And the rewards, whether it be like the XP or the loot or whatever, should reflect that, because you're inherently taking on more risk, and so you should be rewarded as such. So I like that idea. I like what we saw in this trailer. It's it's definitely more difficult to kind of imagine when it's in gray boxing. This is a skill that not everybody has, and I guess nobody can really predict what it will look like. I guess maybe except Joppa, he probably has some vision in his head. But for us, given what we are given, you know, I feel like you really, really have to make an intentional choice to look at the potential rather than the actual gray boxes themselves. And so what we saw a lot of verticality, a lot of climbing. That is one thing. I do love the idea of like scaling a giant castle wall to get onto the ramparts at the top. That's an awesome thought. And Joppa said there's a lot more area around the castle itself, like a bigger yard, so to speak, which could be cool, you know, because like I said, the content in the original Black Rose Keep was pretty dense. It was all just in this one pocket, and so spreading that out has some interesting implications. And if they're just not even spreading out, but just be able to add more content in, if you have more room to add content in, I think that's a good thing. You know, the longer that people can stay in that zone, and you know, that's what MMOs are all about. And it better be worth it, because it's surprising to me. I don't know if it's good or bad. I think there are. I'm fairly confident there's some people that are gonna be a little concerned or upset by the timing of this decision, because like you better have good reasons to pretty much scrap a zone and more or less start over. I mean, that's what we saw. Looks nothing like the Black Rose Keep of before, and that's a bold move. It can pay off. It's kind of, you know, you're definitely taking a few steps back, and that will concern people. There are some people, like, they have probably never worked on a giant project before, and therefore don't understand that you can't always be making one step in front of the other, constant forward progress. That's nearly impossible to do. There's going to be, I'm just speaking in broad terms when it comes to like undertaking big projects. There's going to be hangups, where you hit roadblocks, and sometimes you do actually have to make the scary choice. It's a scary choice to actually go backwards to then take a better path. The 2 steps forward or 2 steps back for 5 steps forward. And yes, it's risky because maybe the payoff won't be good. Maybe, and again, this what I still don't really know is the timing of that decision. Like, is now the right time to do that? Like, yes, maybe it is the right decision where, the Black Rose Keep of before just wasn't really cutting it for what they wanted to do. They're going to have to start over. It's sad, but sometimes that is necessary. I don't know if this is the sort of thing that maybe they could have been able to do it later to the same effect. I don't know. But yeah, it is a bold choice, because like I was saying before, Black Rose Keep felt not necessarily polished, but it felt more or less complete, and that's I don't think I'm not sad about it, but it's just I'm just surprised that that they made the choice that, like, you know what, just scrap it. But who knows, maybe that in game design that sort of thing probably happens more often than we think. I'm sure it happens sometimes, but maybe it happens even more often than we think, where Normally, though, in a development cycle that takes place behind closed doors, you just wouldn't know. None of us would ever even know. But this, they're just kind of like bearing it all, and it's bound to get some criticism. There's people that have been waiting for a long time to get into the game. They might see like, why couldn't you just do this later so that we can get into the game sooner. I don't know. It's opinions, man. Donler says, give me a close quarters zone that's shaped all crazy. Yeah, I would like to see something about that too, because like I said, I love dungeons, and if they are if they're like a labyrinth where it's even easier to get lost in, then that just even escalates the adrenaline factor even more. You know what I mean? Talk about now you're really afraid of dying. Blackrose Keep, yeah, in its original form, who knows what it's like now. In its original form, yeah, like it was a close quarters dungeon, but I personally never felt lost in it. I felt lost in Amber Fate when I played that at TwitchCon, but again, then that's like an outdoor zone, which is interesting. Getting lost in an outdoor zone doesn't actually happen all that often, but that I really hope they do. I don't think they will. I don't think they actually just recently showed footage of Amber Fate. I would be extremely sad if they did an overhaul of that zone, because I think it's designed very well. But it has been a while since we have seen Blackrose Keep, so I guess that's what they've been up to. And again, that just also goes to show how Project Fairthale is totally not just about Fairthale. Like, they showed updates to Amber Fate, now Blackrose Keep. They're talking about Silent Plains, which sounds like it's being worked on. We haven't seen any of it yet, but it's like, seems like almost every zone across the board has been at least getting some attention. But I guess that's why, that's why it's it definitely explains why it's taking so long, and I hope it pays off for them too. Because it is, I definitely understand people's frustration that it has been a long time in the making. But sometime, again, we'll see if it pays off. I think they understand the gravity of the situation. Like he was kind of talking about how their future is, the future timeline's heavily dependent on funding, and funding relies on making a good impression. And so it's pretty obvious that they know that. Now you can't just like, you can't wait around forever, obviously, because it's never going to be perfect. It's just not. I know the gaming industry these days is unfortunately just relentless and brutal and expects perfection, and so it's really hard to put anything out there that's less than perfection. And so finding that line where it's like you want to make a good first impression, but you can't wait till it's perfect, or else you're going to be waiting forever. So it's like, where you draw that line is kind of a matter of opinion. Animate Acumen says elements of games get scrapped often. It is rare for an entire project to be scrapped and start over. I believe Star Wars game got scrapped 3 times. And that reminds me, though, that so in 2015, which was probably when the website that they have now was released, around that same time, almost like, I think the dev said about like 90% of the game of Pantheon got scrapped in order to take it in the direction that it's headed now. And so I made a video about this on my YouTube channel, because it kind of starts this whole debate where it's like, yes, that is part of the creative process. I think naturally is like, you know, it's not gonna be perfect your first try. You know, you're gonna have some bad ideas, and you might take it in that direction. The goal would be to realize if that's not the right direction that you should be going. Hopefully you can realize that sooner rather than later, before you go too far down that path. Because if you have to backtrack again, that the decision to do that is only going to get harder and harder. But yeah, just as that, no matter what you are creating, that whether it be writing a book, whether it be drawing a picture, like that's just naturally part of the creative process, where it's iterative, and sometimes it requires scrapping it and starting over. And I don't like to think of that as a waste of time. Like that's just how it is. But yeah, it takes some bravery to do what they did in 2015, where they're like, you know what, this isn't working, and they literally scrapped like 90% of the game. They kept the name, some aspects of the lore, some of the races, not even most of the races. Most of them got scrapped, and then headed off in the direction that we see today. And so, you know, that was about 5 years ago now. So the game that we see today is about 5 years in the making. But yeah, I mean they're plugging away. They are plugging away. Oh, also, I saw earlier in chat, I'm sorry, I don't remember who said it, but somebody copy and pasted something from the official VR stream where it said the website that they're working on a much better pledge support system, which is good to hear, because the pledge page as it is right now is kind of confusing. If you're coming in for the first time, never pledged before, then yeah, it's apt to be a little overwhelming. And then I know I've heard you know, Kilson talk about how just much of a nightmare on the other side of it, from a customer service. Actually, Madaki, I think I saw you in chat. Yeah, one of the CS guys. I'm sure he can attest to how complicated all the legacy pledges are. Like dating all the way back from the Kickstarter days. There's been a lot of changes made to the pledges since then, and it gets hard to keep track of. And so, but it sounds like they're around the time of this website, they're gonna be able to kind of streamline that process a bit more, which is just good, because you don't want to make it difficult for people to pledge to your game when that's kind of like your source of stability. Aeon says, will you be playing first person or third person? I'm mostly, so I started off, those who know me, I started off playing EQ when I was very, very young, and EQ was pretty much intended to be played in first person. Third person was it did not feel very good, and so I played games in first person for a long time, because that was what I was most comfortable with. And then it wasn't until I started playing DDO in college more seriously where I started bringing that camera out. I actually started playing DDO in first person, which is funny looking back at that now, because you could, but it was kind of the other way around, where it's like you could kind of tell that the game was intended to be played in third person, because first person, it felt like you were missing out on too many important things. And so as I started to dial that camera back and get more situational awareness of what was going on behind my character and see more of the battlefield, that was when I started to get more comfortable with third person. And so that's kind of in every game since, that's kind of what my default has been, and I'll only zoom in if I really have to like look closely at something. I think everybody has used both at certain points. It's just the degree to which you switch between each, and maybe in Pantheon with like the perception system and the attention to detail that they put into the world, maybe there'll be more reasons to want to zoom in closely to inspect things and see things more closely. But so we'll see. We'll see what feels best. But yeah, the immersion of first person is really nice, because it does feel like you are your character and you are in that world. But I guess sometime along the line, I don't know if I was just conditioned because of the way that MMOs are designed, where it's less about immersion and it's more like metagaming, and it's more about just efficiency and effectiveness, and that usually calls for being third person. So so to some degree, whatever works best is somewhat dependent on how the game is designed, and you might be able to tell that a game is intended to be played in a particular perspective. But Joppa, looks like he was here in chat, said that first person will be fully supported as well as third person. So we will see. We'll see, and hopefully hopefully before too long I will have a chance to maybe stream the game. If anybody in a position of power is listening, I will drop that any opportunity I can, because like I said, actually the last time I streamed the game was in August 2018. We're coming up on 2 years now, and I would love to not just talk about what perspective I prefer to play in, but to actually show you. Again, I'm just kind of like begging at this point. I don't have any promises about if or when that will be, but I would love to do that soon for you. And actually, speaking of Joppa and PAX and streams and all this stuff, I recently did an interview with Joppa regarding limited action sets and how they affect the combat system. That is fresh up on my YouTube channel. If you haven't already watched that, it is a little lengthy, but there is so much important information, some of which, to my knowledge, had never been made public before that. So if you have the time, you don't even have to watch it just in one sitting. You break it up into multiple sittings. But please, if you haven't already, go watch that, get all that information. And yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap that up here for tonight on that note. But again, I appreciate every one of you who has chosen to hang out with me here tonight. Just kind of chat nice casually. I always enjoy it. And we will do it again in 1 month. So I will see you then, if not before. But until then, have a good night.